now I'm excited to welcome our next guest for a Fireside Chat. With us today is Karoli Hindriks, founder and CEO of Jobbatical. Founded in 2014 and headquartered in Tallinn, Estonia, Jobbatical is helping employers relocate their international hires. The company's relocation software and services makes immigration easy so businesses can hire whoever they want from anywhere. Karoli, welcome to the EU Startup Summit and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Cool. So let's maybe start at the very beginning. What did you do before founding Jobbatical? I read somewhere that you were the MTV CEO at some point at the age of 23. How did that go?
Yeah, but if you want to get to the beginning, that was far from the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning was much further because I actually started my first company when I was 16 from a student project, accidentally basically invented something for a student company that turned out to be a unique idea, and I became the youngest inventor in Estonia, which basically and I also invented something that basically saved people's lives. So combination of that just opened my eyes so much that, oh wow, I can be 16 and don't have a PhD nor a lot of money, but I can actually create something that makes a difference. So I have been in many ways like an entrepreneur ever since. And regarding MTV, yes, I was actually while I was building my reflector business and got a lot of visibility through that. I was invited to help to launch MTV in Estonia. And initially I was just supporting them with PR and marketing, which was fun for helping to build up while doing my own business as well. But then, yes, when I was 23, that was a surprise request. I remember that Sunday so well. I was asked to take over, basically become the CEO of MTV Estonia, and I said yes to it, not knowing what the media business actually is or how it works. I think that's something like I think one of the themes that I would like to encourage people to think about is that sometimes it's good to have the leap of faith. We are super good at learning, and I decided that I will take this journey, and I actually turned out I was the youngest CEO of MTV in the world, and that was a fun journey. But after that, I actually was so I helped the MTV for 3 years, and after that, I basically helped to launch another bunch of television channels in the Baltic, across the Baltic states, so Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, National Geographic channels, and Fox Entertainment channels. So I was in television business before Jobbatical, and built those new channels in the midst of economical or financial crisis. So got a lot of practice and preparation for how to cope in the difficult economical times, which is a good preparation for the pandemic, right?
Yes, I can assume. Okay, and then you eventually went on to start Jobbatical. What was the initial business model there, and when and how do you pivot that business model?
So I will tell a little bit more, maybe more of like how the founding story was, or where I got the inspiration for Jobbatical. So yes, I was actually, after I decided to step out from the television, I was in Silicon Valley. I was actually in a think tank called Singularity University, a very cool think tank in Mountain View, and which was located in NASA Ames Research Center. So I lived in NASA. As a jogger, runner, I ran every day past Google campus, and there, kind of seeing the Googles of the world, I started to ask, what's up with this region? Like, how come Silicon Valley is creating companies that change industries? What's wrong or right in this part of the world? And I looked into it, and I realized it's not about the people there just happen to be born smarter than anybody else, but more of people who are smart move there for some reason. So I started to think about how could we encourage smart people or highly skilled people to discover far-flung cities of the world, like coming from Tallinn. Like, how could what should I do, or what should we build in order for a person who would be ready to go to Silicon Valley instead move to Tallinn have a really local experience, and through that actually a company in Tallinn could leverage the knowledge that has been the privilege of Silicon Valley. So, and my initial thesis was that in order to do that, we need to collect those highly skilled people into, I call them like borderless people, into a community, and then match them to jobs and exciting teams in far-flung cities of the world. So initially we were a recruiting marketplace, and we moved people from 54 countries to 37 countries. Wow. And while doing it, we actually, somebody was hired in Malaysia, they needed to get to Malaysia, or somebody was hired in Austria, they somehow needed to get to Austria. So we actually started to support the relocation as part of the hiring process. And while doing that, the clients started to tell us the story. And the story was that what is actually the biggest problem of international hiring? That's not hiring, it's actually the immigration relocation part. So our clients actually started to come to us to ask to relocate also other people, not only the Jobbatical hires. And through that, we suddenly had two businesses. We had the one that we started, which was recruiting, and the other was basically the immigration relocation, which the client wanted, but what wasn't necessarily the business that we had started. So basically, through that, we just saw that our product market fit is actually here. Like, this is the biggest problem. If we solve that, we solve the problem of hiring. And in 2019, we did the big, bold move, and we pivoted the company. Said goodbye to almost 500,000 users. Imagine that email to send out was a pretty big one, but it was the best decision for the company. And we also told our users that by building technology around immigration relocation, we can actually help you and the world much more than by being the marketplace for jobs. So basically, this is the short story how we change the direction. But even our mission didn't change. Our mission is think beyond borders and help the world work together. It's still the same mission. It's just that we were doing all those different things, and now we're doing one part of this, and we're really focusing on that one problem that is actually the most painful problem in the international hiring.
Okay. Talking about pain and problems, how did the pandemic affect Jobbatical as a company, and how did you make sure your team stays happy and motivated during the crisis?
Well, I remember when, first of all, if you do the little math, then we turned around the company in 2019, which was a big change for the company. We did it very well, but it was a big change because we needed to basically restructure the company. Anybody related to hiring, we needed to let them go, which was a big change for the team. So it was 7 months later when pandemic hit, and I remember when I stood in front of the team, I reminded all of us that we have a very strong change muscle, because we have just recently used that change muscle. So definitely, I mean, thinking about, we are in the immigration relocation business, and what happened in the world definitely it affected us. But thinking about where we came or what we came through, we actually managed to grow 3 times in 2020. Jokingly said that imagine what those numbers would have been without the pandemic. So I think there's 2 things. First of all, our team really had a very good change muscle, and it wasn't easy. I'm like, no illusions. It was a very hard year for us and for our team, because the complexity of immigration increased, a lot of uncertainty and all of that. But the team did an amazing job. But another thing is also it was a proof of the trend, and the trend is that global mobility is on a big growth wave, because there's the shortage of talent. I mean, I don't like looking at the statistics, like by 2030, the shortage of talent will cost globally countries and companies $8.5 trillion, and that $8 trillion has 12 zeros, so it's a lot of zeros, right? So we are already living in this era where the talent shortage is just affecting businesses across the world, which means that the talent that you need to hire is not here, so you need to find that person from somewhere else. So I think what we saw, that even the pandemic did not stop that wave.
And how did the pandemic change the game for employee relocation and immigration? Did a lot change there? Have things become more difficult during that time?
I mean, what I think the important thing is that very often when what we heard from media was that all the travel restrictions, but this was affecting mainly the tourism. So there are two types of travel. There's essential travel and non-essential travel. So employment related travel is essential travel, which means that we still continue to, actually our relocations grew almost 4 times last year. So our revenue 3 times, but so in that sense, that was a proof of that. The question was that the movement definitely went more complex, which meant so the complexity grew, but the movement still continued. I mean, what we saw initially, our fear was that it will affect much more, like it will stop relocation, stop hiring. What we saw is that mainly were affected smaller companies. So smaller companies may during the 2020, the fast reaction was to go remote. But for bigger, fast growth companies, they still continued relocating people. And in terms of moving forward, I think what we are seeing, and you probably want to ask, so are we going to work remotely all now, right? So, and I think what we're seeing, first of all, is that for the growth companies, the relocations are happening as actively or even more actively than before. And to be honest, I think there are 2 things that will happen. Definitely, there will be more flexibility. That's no question. Like today, we employers who never even thought of letting anybody work remotely have been forced to see that they can actually allow people to work remotely. But there's another thing is that people, I think what we were really reminded was also how important the human connection is. So I think what we are seeing, and I see it also from our team, who even before pandemic was super remote friendly and traveling a lot and all over the world. Like literally we have people who have relocated from all over the world, who are, all different places. But I think what I see is that also from our team is that people miss other people. So I think that they, when there was a huge desire to work remotely before, there's a huge desire to come back together, but come back together with a flexibility to move. And I think that's another thing. What I do believe that will come out from this pandemic is that there will be a huge rise in the number of people who take a part of the year and will travel and work. So digital nomads. And I think this is because before digital nomad thing was more of like a freelancer thing. But I believe this will be something that will much more go into the corporate enterprises businesses. So people want to take, I will work from New Zealand for the next 3 months. I want to have the flexibility to do it because my boss has seen I'm able to work remotely. But that will also create another layer of complexity for the HR teams, because one can't really just go and work remotely without having the legal status to do so. So that's something that the countries need to actually also resolve, because I don't know how much you know, but last year Estonia was the first country to launch the digital nomad visa, which was in collaboration with us, and where a lot more countries have started to talk about that, because basically creating a legal status that enables people to legally work remotely without having a local employer. And I think we will see huge numbers of people becoming new digital nomads.
Okay, so coming back to employee relocation and immigration, companies who are not working with Jobbatical yet, what are the common mistakes you see companies doing when it comes to relocation and the immigration process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first common mistake, first of all, I mean, the core of what we're doing and what we're building is to make the whole immigration process seamless. So our core is that it will become so easy and affordable that people and companies just relocate because we exist. I think one of the big mistakes that we have seen, and I think it's less in the new kind of tech sector companies, but more of like how to say companies who are more traditional, right, is to leave the relocation in the hands of the person whom they hire, which is a disaster. Because if you think about, first of all, if you think about somebody, first of all, we are fighting for the same talent globally, all the countries, all the companies, right? And now you have finally found a person who has the skill set that you want, is ready to move to where you are. And now the move will be the first onboarding experience, and you are telling them then, you deal with it. And I think, so basically this will not, with increasing competition for talent, this will not be sustainable. So which means that a relocation element should become like a normal onboarding, like part of a normal onboarding package, because if the onboarding goes bad, the whole hiring has been for nothing. And I think that's something that still quite a lot of companies tend to forget. So maybe if that answers your question.
Okay, so coming back to your entrepreneurial journey, if you could go back into time and meet Karoli in the first founding year, what would you tell the Karoli of this first funding year to make better? Maybe is there something like that you learned in hindsight that you wish you would have known in this first year of founding a startup?
Absolutely, there are a million of things. So in that sense, we could do that session, a very long session. But there's definitely one thing that comes to my mind, and that's one. And this is where we actually got it right the second time. And basically, that first we started to build the first Jobbatical based on my idea without actually testing it out in real time, like how it will work in an Excel. So before actually building anything, you should try it out with a Google spreadsheet with clients here, and if you have a market, we start a marketplace, so you should have users on one side and clients the other side. Don't build anything before you see it actually works real time. So in a way, it's like building a road, and then you see that people actually go across the grass, right? That so we lost so much time and effort because we started to build my idea instead of building what the clients actually and customers need. And that would be my first. And I think this is a mistake I have heard a lot of others do, and that's why I'm voicing it, because it seems so fun to start building something, right? Let's have the CTO sit down and write code, but don't do that before you know it actually works. And go and use your email, use your spreadsheet, just fake. Is there actually demand? Do you have actually clients who would buy it without building anything? And after that, start building something. So I think that would be my first big recommendation. Besides that, there's tons of things, but again, that would be a very long session.
Okay, good. So you created Jobbatical with headquarters in Tallinn. You had the idea for the company while being based in Silicon Valley. Did you ever think about moving the company to the US or to London, or do you think you can bring Jobbatical to its full potential while being based in Tallinn?
That's a super good question. And I think here, I could have stayed in Silicon Valley, of course. But I think in many ways, the whole thesis of what we're building is based on the fact that I truly believe that today you can build a company from anywhere. You can build a team from anywhere. You can relocate people to any country. So in a way, I was stubborn that to prove the world that you don't have to sit in Silicon Valley to build a company. You can actually build it from Tallinn. So in that sense, we did have discussions, especially, and that was the discussion for maybe, should we move the headquarters because investors like it more, right? But what I like is that, within the past years, I think this discussion has expanded, and more companies are headquartered in different European cities or Asian cities, and that it's kind of moving away from Silicon Valley and the rest of London's and New York's. And in many ways, I mean, this was what I also wanted to do, is that let's try to get those smart people who moved to Silicon Valley to move to somewhere else. And we're seeing that this is actually happening. So I'm really happy about that. In terms of Estonia, why to stay in Estonia is, and this is another thing where I'm stubborn, is Estonia has, like, as a citizen and as an entrepreneur, is a country with a super good user experience. Like just anything which is public sector facing, that would take more than 10 minutes, people get frustrated. Everything just works digitally. So if I would have to spend more time on doing taxes than 3 minutes, I would get frustrated. Or if I would have to, elections, I could just, I remember I was in Japan in a hotel, I opened my computer, entered my ID card, 2 minutes, I had voted in elections. So it's just Estonia may be remote in terms of Europe, but if the time that I can focus on my company there, I can actually do that much more because I don't have to waste time on the bureaucratic processes that we have in so many countries still. And and that's something that I really would encourage countries to think about is the user experience of your citizens, of your entrepreneurs, because it does make such a big difference. It just it's a time that you're not wasting.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, I agree. Many European countries even can learn from Estonia, and it can be done with less bureaucratic, obviously. So that's a great message. So Karoli, thank you so much.
Can I just,
yes?
Can I just end the same? There's a financial benefit. I remember when our president was mentioning that Estonia every year apparently saves 2% of GDP by just being digital. So it's not only like the experience of the people, but it's also the money that you're saving. Anyways, just wanted to add this to our conversation.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure talking to you. And good luck on your continued journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Thomas.